Most people treat hiring a mortgage broker the same way they treat picking a tradie off Google. Someone shows up, does the job, and you pay. Done. But here's the problem with that. A bad trade might cost you a few $1,000s and a week of headaches. A bad mortgage broker can quietly cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of your investing life. And you'll never know if it happened until you're sitting across from somebody that actually knows what they are doing and trying to undo it. I know this because I've been on both sides of it. I've been a mortgage broker for 8 years and an investor for 20, building my own portfolio from scratch to over $30 million before recently selling my main home. And I've sat in your chair and I've sat in the broker's chair, and I know exactly what to look for. So these are the exact principles I use to interrogate my own mortgage broker before I commit to working with them. So you can use them too, including the questions that will tell you very quickly whether they are genuinely working for you or whether they are just taking the path of least resistance. I also want to be very clear about something up front. I am not suggesting that there is a systemic problem with mortgage brokers. On the whole, using a broker far outweighs going direct to a single bank or trying to navigate it yourself. Brokers in Australia are legally bound by something called best interest duty, which means they are required to prioritize your needs above their own. So in theory, they should always be doing right by you. But there is a massive difference between a good broker and a great broker. And the gap between those two things can mean the difference between a portfolio that keeps building and one that quietly stalls because someone did not ask the right questions early enough. A lot of it comes down to whether your broker is genuinely working for you or just working through you. Which brings me to the first question you should be asking. Question 1. How many lenders are on your panel and how often do you actually use them? Panel size matters, but not the way that most people think. Most brokers have access to the same pool of lenders through their aggregator, typically anywhere between 45 to 80 lenders. But here is the number that actually tells you something useful. The average broker has active accreditation with around 23 of these lenders, not 45 and definitely not 80, 23. And within that, a lot of brokers default to the same handful of lenders for most of their loans, either because they are the ones that they know the best or because it's simply easier. So the question is not how many lenders are on the panel. The more important question is what does the quality and diversity of those lenders actually look like for your specific situation? If you're a straightforward borrower buying a home in your own name on a PAYG income, a broker who works well with the major banks is probably fine. But if you have any complexity at all, self-employment, multiple properties, a trust structure, a company, then the specific lenders a broker knows and uses regularly starts to matter enormously. Some lenders have policies that are genuinely better for certain borrower profiles, and knowing which lender has the most favorable valuation methodology or the most flexible serviceability calculator for an investor is the kind of thing that only comes from genuine breadth of experience across the panel. If you're an investor, ask specifically whether they have lenders who deal with trust structures. Ask whether they have commercial accreditation if that's something you might want in the future, and then ask them to be specific. Which lenders and why? If they cannot give you a clear answer, then that tells you something. Which brings me to question 2. How do you get paid? This is the question most people feel awkward about asking, but you should ask it anyway. Mortgage brokers receive an upfront commission when your loan settles, paid by the lender, and a trail commission that is paid monthly for as long as the loan stays on your book. As an example, for a $700,000 loan, the upfront commission is roughly $4,500, and the annual trail works out to be about $1,000 a year. That is paid by the lender. It does not change your interest rate, and it does not add to your costs. Now, the uncomfortable question underneath this is whether some lenders pay more than others, and whether that influences recommendations. And the honest answer is that for most standard residential lending, the commission differences between lenders are genuinely small. We're only talking in fractions of a percent. Where it can vary more is with white label products, non-bank lenders, and commercial lending. But under best interest duty, a broker is legally required to recommend what is right for your situation, not what pays them the most. And they are required to disclose exactly what they are being paid on every single loan. So ask the question. A broker who answers it clearly and specifically with actual numbers is demonstrating the kind of transparency that you want from somebody managing what is likely to be one of the largest financial decisions of your life. A broker who gets defensive or vague is telling you something just as clearly. Question 3. Can you show me a comparison of at least 3 lenders? A good broker does not just find you a loan, they show you their thinking. Any broker worth working with will be able to explain not just what they are recommending, but why they are recommending it over the alternatives. In Australia, that is actually captured formally in a document called the Statement of Credit Assistance. It is not just here as our recommendation. It is here as the recommended lender. Here is why we chose them, and here are the 2 or 3 closest alternatives that we considered and why they did not rank above the recommendation. So when you are sitting with a broker and they come back to you with a recommendation, ask them to walk you through the comparison. Which other lenders did they look at? Why didn't they make the cut? What specifically about the recommended lender makes it a right fit for your situation right now and where you want to be in 2 or 3 years' time? If they cannot walk you through that clearly, they've either not done the work or they've done it and cannot explain it, and neither of those is good enough. Question 4. What happens after settlement? This is where a lot of brokers disappear. Before settlement, a good broker is calling you, following you up, keeping your process moving. The commission has not yet been paid, so the attention is there. After settlement, for many clients, the contact stops entirely. They do not hear back from their broker until they pick the phone up themselves, sometimes years later. By this point, they may be sitting on a rate that's drifted well above what they could have refinanced to. For any investor building a portfolio that is genuinely not good enough, what I've built at Freedom Funding is an annual review process for every single client on the anniversary date of every loan that we've written. At a minimum, that review includes a pricing check against the existing lender and a read of how that rate sits against the current market. If there is a better deal available, we'll call. Beyond the rate check, we also look at valuations and run a check against whatever that client's next objective is, whether that's another purchase, an equity release, or just making sure that the current structure is still working as hard as it should be. A broker should be a finance partner, not just a transaction. If you've not heard from yours in a year or more, then it is worth reflecting on. Question 5. Have you placed loans for people in my situation before? This one matters more than most people realize. The alignment between your goals and your broker's actual depth of experience is critical. A broker who predominantly works with first home buyers will know first home buyer schemes, lender policies, and grants inside out. But put them in front of a self-employed investor with a trust structure and a company, and they may be operating well outside their comfort zone. You may not know that something is wrong until it goes wrong. The test I would give you for this is simple. Ask your broker what their elevator pitch is. Ask them what kind of clients they typically deal with. If they can answer that quickly, clearly, and specifically in about 30 seconds, they know what their lane is. If they give you a vague answer about working with everyone across all sorts of situations, the odds are they do not have a genuine speciality. You may end up being in a situation where they're just figuring it out on the job. At Freedom Funding, I built my team deliberately around this. Different brokers for different client profiles. Our SMSF lending, for instance, is handled by a broker who is a former financial planner. He understands the structure, the regulatory environment, and critically, which lenders fit within SMSF scenario. That depth is not something you get from someone who places one deal in this space per year. So have a think about what your situation actually looks like. Are you self-employed? Are you building an investment portfolio? Do you have or are you considering a trust? And then ask your broker directly whether they have done that recently, specifically, and what the outcome was. If you want to have that conversation with a broker who can answer all 5 of those questions with specifics, there is a link in the description to book a call with our team. Before you book that first call, there is one more thing worth doing, and that is reading the reviews properly. Not the star rating, the actual text. The property industry has plenty of businesses with flawless 5-star Google track records that do not hold up under scrutiny. Forced reviews, pay reviews, bad reviews that have been managed away. The star rating alone tells you very little. What you are looking for is specificity. Are the reviews talking about someone real? Do the clients mention a specific scenario that was solved, a specific outcome that was delivered, something the broker did that went over and above what was expected? Generic 5-star reviews that say great service, highly recommended, are easy to manufacture. A review where a client describes in their own words what their situation was and how it was resolved is much harder to fake and much more useful to you. That is actually one of the things I'm most proud of at Freedom Funding. Not the amount of reviews, but the detail in them. When a client writes specifically about what we did and how it changed their situation, that is the thing that tells me that my team are doing what they are supposed to be doing. So to bring it together, 5 questions. How many lenders are on your panel? And which ones do you actually use? How do you get paid? And what are the actual numbers? Can you show me a comparison of at least 3 lenders? What does your post-settlement service actually look like? And have you placed loans for people in my situation before? Those 5 questions will tell you more about whether a broker is right for you than any amount of marketing material or website full of stock photos. A great broker will answer them all clearly, specifically, and without hesitation, because a great broker has nothing to hide and a lot to show. If you want to put those questions to us, the link is in the description. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.